Georgy Lakhovsky is a Russian engineer and inventor. His scientific activity in the first half of the 20th century was expressed in independent research in such fields as mechanics, electrical engineering, the design of radio engineering devices, the study of the properties of electromagnetic fields and waves, as well as research in the fields of cell biology, physiology, and oncology. As an engineer, Georgy tried to transfer the ideas of physical fields to living cellular structures. He put forward the hypothesis of cellular oscillation. He was an engineer, so he decided to experimentally test the effect of short electromagnetic waves on biological objects at the physical level. Amazingly, his bold determination to devote himself entirely to science suddenly produced results. Lokhovsky conducted active scientific work and invented electric lamps, securing patents in France, Germany, and the United States. In 1923, Lokhovsky constructed a shortwave oscillator with a wavelength from 2 to 10 meters. For that time, it was a great achievement which made it possible to prove his theory of cellular oscillation. In February 1931, Lokhovsky created the first multi-oscillator, which produced waves of different lengths. In the middle of the same year, Lokhovsky tested the effect of this multi-oscillator at the Paris clinic Redactor. With the help of this device, he managed to cure several cancer patients. And here, a new quality of Lokhovsky's soul was revealed. Georgy didn't take any money for his work. He claimed that seeing a healthy patient was the greatest gratitude in the world for him. Georgy Lakhovsky's enthusiasm was boiling over. He wrote a number of books about the frequencies of vibrations of biological objects and even aimed for immortality. After Hitler took power, Lakhovsky emigrated to the United States. At a Brooklyn hospital in New York, he founded a department for treating cancer using his multi-oscillator, and in 1942 Lakhovsky died in a car accident in New York. And there is reason to believe it was staged. How does medicine work? She has a good understanding of human anatomy, identifies the affected organ, and tries to treat it radically either through surgical operations or with various medications that are sold in pharmacies. Moreover, this is a huge business and a way for the minority to influence the majority of the world's population. While in Paris, Lakhovsky was aware of the works of Pasteur and later Mechnikov, who, using a microscope, discovered numerous viruses and created vaccines to fight them. At that same time in Paris, engineer Lakhovsky suggested a completely new scientific path for medicine. Instead of destroying the source of the disease, he suggested influencing healthy cells using frequency radiation. The goal of this treatment method, using frequency tuning of bioresonance, is to strengthen the healthy radiation of cells. For this purpose, Lakhovsky created a whole group of electronic devices that could emit radiation at the required frequency. Georgy Lakhovsky's goal was to help the cells themselves in their fight against pathogenic microorganisms. Lakhovsky discovered that all viruses have a much lower frequency than any healthy cell's oscillations. Therefore, if you increase the frequency of the body's cells, you can simultaneously fight viruses. When the necessary frequency is increased, life becomes uncomfortable for viruses in the human body, their reproduction stops, they die, and the person recovers. So what are vibrations? If we ask this question to a passerby on the street, he will most likely answer that it's when something is shaking, and that would be correct. We are used to encountering vibrations in exactly this way. Lakhovsky suggested that in living systems, especially in birds, evolution has created special mechanisms for frequency perception. Thus, by considering the anatomy of the human ear as a device for perceiving sound vibrations, Lakhovsky expanded his philosophical ideas about living organisms. He stated that life is born from radiations, retaining the necessary radiation. And this same life is suppressed by any accident that destroys balanced oscillations, especially by the radiations of certain microbes, which suppress weaker cells with them. When asked which organ allows animals to perceive electromagnetic waves, Lakhovsky replied that, in his opinion, it is the semicircular canals of the inner ear, which are filled with fluid. It is this fluid that serves as the conductor of the finest vibrations. But what about other lower animals? Lakhovsky asks himself about those who do not have labyrinths of the inner ear, and then answers himself. For example, invertebrate animals have membranous vesicles that serve the same function as the labyrinths in mammals. Now Lakhovsky formulates the basic principles of all living organisms. Every living organism emits electromagnetic waves, and secondly, every living organism can both emit and receive electromagnetic waves. Third, every animal that can fly and move away from the surface of the earth has greater abilities to emit and receive electromagnetic waves. Animals that move on the ground have much less ability to emit and receive. Fourth, the weakening influence of the sun on the propagation of electromagnetic waves forces animals with weak abilities to emit and receive electromagnetic waves to adopt a nocturnal lifestyle. Fifth, the radiation of the moon has a special significance for the living beings of the earth. Lakhovsky's experiment on plants through irradiation. To test his theory of cellular oscillation, Lakhovsky, together with colleagues from the surgical clinic of the city of Salpêtrière, conducts a series of his own experiments on plants. A number of indoor plants from the Pelargonium zanatum family were inoculated under the bark with Bacterium tumefaciens, which caused a kind of cancer accompanied by the formation of tumors at the site of inoculation. After the tumors on all the plants had developed to the size of a cherry pit, a portion of the plants was selected to be exposed to electromagnetic waves with a wavelength of about 2 meters, which corresponded to a frequency of 150 MHz. This group of irradiated plants was further divided into two groups. The first group was irradiated twice a day for 3 hours each time, and the second group of plants was irradiated 3 times a day for 3 hours each time. During the experiment, the disease progressed in the control group of non-irradiated plants, while the irradiated plants showed a gradual process of recovery. On the 16th day after irradiation, the tumor began to dry out, and the dried parts fell off on the 31st day, leaving only a scar on the plant's stem. The plants that were subjected to a greater number of irradiations behaved similarly, except that the dried part of the tumor fell off a little earlier. The plants were observed for a long period, and the observations confirmed the complete recovery of the irradiated plants. From the experiment, Lokhovsky concludes that this type of irradiation selectively affected the bacteria that had infected the plant. They were destroyed while the plant's own cells remained unharmed. This suggests that bacterial cells and plant cells have different resonance frequencies, meaning they respond differently to the same frequency. This means that different types of cells have different electrical properties. To confirm this hypothesis, Lokhovsky conducts another biological experiment. He takes two similar types of bacteria, typhus bacillus and colibacillus. The first, typhus bacillus, is found only in human organs affected by typhoid. These bacteria are rod-shaped and about 2 to 3 microns long. The rods have cilia, which allow these bacteria to move very quickly. The second type, colibacillus, permanently live in the gastrointestinal tract and are found in most people and animals. They are generally harmless, but in some cases can cause intestinal disease. This type of bacteria is less mobile than the first one. Lakhovsky places both types separately from each other in a conductive solution, then on opposite sides of the container. 2 electrodes are placed in the liquid with the bacteria and connected to a direct current battery. Afterward, Typhus bacillus is drawn equally to both poles, while colibacillus is attracted to only one. This experiment clearly demonstrates the presence of different electrical properties in different cells. Lakhovsky says theories about cells' benefits and harms can be developed from their electrical properties. To demonstrate the effect of cosmic radiation on biological objects on our Earth, Lakhovsky conducts a very simple experiment using the same type of geranium that was mentioned earlier in the irradiation experiments. The stem of the plants is also infected with Bacterium tumefaciens bacteria. After a month, when a tumor had developed on all the plants, Lakhovsky made a spiral-shaped circle out of copper wire about 30 cm in diameter and stuck it on an ebonite stand into the pot of several plants. The results of the experiment: the same plants without the copper circle dried up and died, while the plants with the copper circle recovered successfully and continued to grow. Moreover, during further observation, they far outpaced the average growth of ordinary plants of this species. Lokhovsky interpreted these results as follows: the copper coil of wire became a kind of antenna for receiving cosmic radiation, and because of this, a particularly favorable electromagnetic field was created around the plants. All the plants died except for the second one from the left, which was equipped with a round antenna. Let's consider the phases of the moon. Lakhovsky is a pioneer in studying the influence of the moon on living organisms. He tried to trace the processes of the moon's influence at the cellular level using the following experiment. He took the previously mentioned coli bacillus bacteria, which were placed in a certain number of colonies in 1 liter of pond water. After 24 hours of reproduction, the water was purified using silver spirals, which also lasted for 24 hours. Then the water was filtered and the number of bacterial colonies was counted. These experiments were conducted many times on different days and in different months. The results were compared with the phases of the moon. In this way, the following pattern was revealed during the period from the waxing crescent to the full moon. Purifying bacteria with silver became so difficult that for several days around the full moon, not only did purification fail, but bacterial colonies actually increased. During the period after the full moon, the purification processes occurred more effectively, reaching their peak at the new moon. From this fact, it follows that the moon has a decomposing, detrimental effect on biological objects on Earth. Lakhovsky explains the irregularity of biological experiments in the same way, meaning that for a successful and accurate microbiological experiment, it is necessary to take into account cosmic influences in general and the moon with its 28-day cycle in particular. It should be noted that the moon has a detrimental effect on the physical cells of all living things. Lakhovsky cited studies on how the moon affects disease progression in patients at a Paris hospital. A doctor at this hospital recorded data from cancer patients over a long period of time, noting their weight, blood pressure, and the number of blood cells. After analyzing a long series of collected statistical data, this doctor found that the condition of the patients worsened in the days before and after the full moon. In this light, it's interesting to consider the theory of religion, which includes lunar cults whose rituals are performed at night, where nature is not glorified but instead worship is directed toward a certain god, and the main focus of this worship is the relationship between him and humanity. Solar cults are heretical, glorifying the sun, unlike lunar cults. These rituals take place in the fields, celebrating harvest and fertility with food, circle dances, and praise for nature's forces. The very word culture comes from cult of Ra, where Ra is the sunlight. If earlier the sun was called Yerila Ra, then religion took away its name and gave it the term Solunse, and the sun became sort of an appendage to the moon. Framing this analogy reveals the kind of influence the moon has on its followers and the sun on its own. Dependence of cellular vibration on nutrition. According to Lokhovsky, a disruption of the normal vibration of a cell leads to illness. One of the reasons for changes in vibration can be nutrition. Lokhovsky writes, one form of changing the balance of cell vibrations can be a change in its chemical composition, which leads to a change in its physical properties, capacitance and self-inductance. This leads to a change in oscillation, which can be the cause of disease. The cell's vibration, or its ability to send and receive frequency impulses, depends on its chemical composition. By consuming plant or animal food, a person absorbs the resonant frequencies of the cells they consume. This is true in the case of foods that have not been processed, such as raw vegetables and fruits. Lakhovsky recommends eating raw foods since the cells of these foods have natural nature-given resonant frequencies that are harmonically close to human cells. But when it comes to processed foods, the quality of the original product's cells can be significantly altered, meaning that the processing of food can fundamentally change the resonant frequencies of the original product. All of this affects the quality of the building material of our cells. On this subject, Lokhovsky writes, "Thanks to nutrition, we are constantly changing the composition of our cells and therefore their oscillatory properties. In most cases, our diet is irrational. Abuse of such products as boiled or fried meat leads to the accumulation of harmful waste, toxins, domains, and so on in our cells, and so on. This interferes with the normal cellular oscillation of our body's cells, as a result of which our cells begin to function improperly. This leads to physiological degeneration of tissues, that is, disease, premature aging, and early death." In addition, the quality of nutrition affects a person's ability to perceive certain cosmic waves, considering that each person has their own frequency or innate cosmic wave, and also take into account that a disturbance in the balance of the native frequency characteristics leads to the dysfunction of the cell nucleus. It can be confidently stated that the quality of nutrition directly affects a person's energetic state. The energy that is formed from the entire set of cosmic radiations permeating the infinite universe is called Univerzion by Lokhovsky. He writes, "Univerzion is an all-encompassing concept of infinite magnitude, intended to symbolize the infinity of the universe. Univerzion equally fills both the atom and the entire world. Univerzion is the source from which matter originated, so Univerzion is the true foundation of the universe. Only by accepting the concept of Univerzion can we explain the mystery of the existence of celestial bodies and interstellar space, which without this concept would be nothing, would be death. Univerzion is everything about everything. With every step, with every minute, we have proof of its omnipresence. Life and matter are a transient temporary phenomenon, some changes in temperature, and all life and matter will decompose into atoms and return to the bosom of Univerzion, from which once again through cosmic radiation a new combination of material particles and new life will be born." Lakhovsky made this conclusion, summarizing my theory. It can be expressed in 3 statements. Life arose thanks to radiation. Life is sustained by radiation. Life is destroyed by radiation.